Have you ever experienced thoughts that seem to appear out of nowhere? Dark, disturbing, or frightening thoughts that make you question your own mind? Thoughts that feel so alien to who you are that they leave you feeling anxious, guilty, or even terrified of yourself? If you're nodding along, know that you're not alone. Intrusive thoughts are one of the most common yet misunderstood experiences of the human mind. These uninvited mental visitors can range from fleeting worries to vivid, disturbing scenarios that seem to hijack your consciousness. They might involve harm coming to loved ones, inappropriate sexual thoughts, blasphemous ideas, or violent imagery that contradicts your deepest values. The more you try to push them away, the stronger they seem to become, creating a vicious cycle of mental torment. But here's what most people don't understand. Having intrusive thoughts doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you want to act on them, and it certainly doesn't define who you are. In fact, the distress you feel about these thoughts is often proof of your moral character. You're upset precisely because these thoughts go against your values. Today, we're going to explore this challenging aspect of the human experience through the lens of ancient Buddhist wisdom, combined with modern psychological understanding. Over the next several lessons, you'll discover not just how to cope with intrusive thoughts, but how to transform your relationship with them entirely. Buddhism, with its 2,500-year history of exploring the mind, offers us profound insights into the nature of thought itself. The Buddha and his followers didn't just theorize about the mind, they mapped it, studied it, and developed practical techniques that have helped millions of people find peace amidst mental chaos. We'll explore 8 transformative lessons that will help you understand why intrusive thoughts occur, how to respond to them skillfully, and ultimately, how to reduce their power over your life. Each lesson builds upon the previous one, creating a comprehensive approach to mental freedom. By the end of this journey, you'll have a toolkit of practices that can help you navigate even the most challenging mental experiences with greater ease and confidence. You'll understand that you are not your thoughts, and you'll have the skills to prove it to yourself every day. So let's begin this journey together, moving from struggle to understanding, from fear to freedom. Lesson 1. Understanding the nature of intrusive thoughts. Before we can effectively deal with intrusive thoughts, we must first understand what they are and why they occur. In Buddhist psychology, all thoughts are seen as mental formations, temporary arising and passing phenomena that don't reflect our true nature. Intrusive thoughts are like uninvited guests at a party. They show up without invitation, make themselves known in uncomfortable ways, and often refuse to leave when we want them to. But just as uninvited guests don't define the host, intrusive thoughts don't define you. The Buddha taught about the concept of papanka, mental proliferation, or the mind's tendency to elaborate and create stories around simple experiences. When an intrusive thought arises, our minds often begin a process of analysis. Why did I think that? What does this mean about me? What if I act on this thought? This proliferation is often more painful than the original thought itself. Modern neuroscience supports this ancient understanding. Research shows that the average person has between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day, and studies indicate that virtually everyone experiences intrusive thoughts at some point. The difference between those who suffer from them and those who don't isn't the presence or absence of these thoughts, it's how they respond to them. Dr. Aaron Beck, the father of cognitive therapy, identified what he called automatic thoughts, spontaneous mental events that occur without conscious control. Intrusive thoughts are a subset of these automatic thoughts, often carrying emotional charge and seeming importance that they don't actually possess. The key insight here is that thoughts are not facts. They're not commands, predictions, or reflections of your character. They're simply mental events, electrical and chemical activities in your brain that come and go like waves on the ocean. In Buddhist terms, thoughts have 3 characteristics. They are impermanent, anicca. They often cause suffering when we cling to them, dukkha, and they are not self, anatta, meaning they don't represent who you truly are. Here's a practical exercise to begin changing your relationship with intrusive thoughts. The thought labeling practice. When an intrusive thought arises, instead of fighting it or analyzing it, Simply label it. Having the thought that, for example, having the thought that something bad will happen, or having the thought that I might harm someone. This simple practice creates psychological distance between you and the thought. You're not saying the thought is true or false, good or bad. You're simply acknowledging its presence as a mental event. Practice this labeling for just 5 minutes a day. Notice how it feels different to observe a thought versus being consumed by it. This is your first step toward freedom, recognizing that you are the observer of your thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. Lesson 2. The paradox of control. One of the most counterintuitive aspects of dealing with intrusive thoughts is that the harder you try to control them, the more persistent they become. This phenomenon, known in psychology as ironic process theory, or the white bear effect, was beautifully illustrated by psychologist Daniel Wegner. Try this right now for the next 30 seconds. Do not think of a white bear. Don't picture it, don't imagine it. Just avoid any thoughts of white bears entirely. What happened? Most likely, white bears invaded your consciousness precisely because you were trying to keep them out. The same principle applies to intrusive thoughts. When we say, I must not think about harming someone, or I can't let myself have these disturbing thoughts, we're essentially giving our minds a roadmap of exactly what to focus on. Buddhist wisdom has long understood this paradox. The concept of non-attachment doesn't mean we don't care about things. It means we don't cling to or resist experiences. When we stop fighting our thoughts and instead allow them to be present without resistance, they often lose their power over us. The Buddha used the metaphor of a muddy pond. When you're trying to see clearly through muddy water, stirring it up only makes it muddier. But if you stop stirring and let the water be still, the mud settles naturally and clarity returns. This doesn't mean we should welcome intrusive thoughts or try to have more of them. Rather, it means we should adopt what psychologists call acceptance and commitment therapy principles, acknowledging the thoughts without letting them dictate our actions. Here's the crucial distinction. You cannot control what thoughts arise in your mind, but you can control how you respond to them. This shift from trying to control the content of your thoughts to controlling your response to them is revolutionary. Let's practice this with the surfing the urge technique. When an intrusive thought arises, instead of trying to push it away, imagine yourself as a surfer riding a wave. The wave, your thought, will rise, peak, and eventually crash and recede. Your job isn't to stop the wave, it's to maintain your balance while riding it. Visualize the thought as a wave building in intensity. Feel its peak, the moment of maximum distress or discomfort. Now notice how it naturally begins to subside. Waves don't last forever, and neither do thoughts. By surfing rather than fighting, you work with the natural rhythm of your mind rather than against it. This practice teaches you that you can coexist with uncomfortable thoughts without being overwhelmed by them. You're not trying to get rid of the thought. You're learning to ride it out with skill and grace. If this message resonates with you, and you're seeking more moments of peace and insight, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for daily reflections rooted in ancient wisdom and modern clarity. Lesson 3. Cultivating the witness self. In Buddhist philosophy, there's a profound teaching about the nature of consciousness itself. We are not just the thinker of our thoughts, we are also the witness who observes the thinker. This witness consciousness, or sakshi in Sanskrit, is always present, always aware, and always unaffected by the content of what it observes. Think of your mind as a vast theater. On the stage, there's a constant performance, thoughts, emotions, sensations, and experiences playing out their dramas. Most of the time, we're so absorbed in the performance that we forget we're the audience. We identify completely with the actors, our thoughts, and forget that we're actually the observer watching from the seats. Intrusive thoughts are like particularly dramatic or disturbing actors on this stage. They demand attention, create emotional scenes, and try to convince us that their performance is reality. But when we remember that we're the audience, the witness, we can watch even the most disturbing performance without being consumed by it. This is different from dissociation or emotional numbing. The witness self is fully present and aware, but it maintains a healthy psychological distance from the drama unfolding in the mind. It's like being a compassionate therapist to your own mental experiences. present, aware, and caring, but not overwhelmed or identified with the content. The practice of cultivating the witness self is called vipassana, or insight meditation in Buddhism. It involves developing the ability to observe your mental experiences without immediately reacting to them. This isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about developing what psychologists call metacognitive awareness, the ability to think about your thinking. Here's a powerful exercise to develop your witness self, the observatory practice. Find a quiet place where you can sit comfortably. Close your eyes and imagine you're sitting in an observatory, looking out at the night sky. Each thought that arises is like a star or planet in this vast space. When an intrusive thought appears, don't try to eliminate it or analyze it. Simply observe it as you would observe a distant star, with curiosity but without attachment. Notice its qualities. Is it bright or dim? Does it seem close or far away? Is it moving or stationary? Some thoughts might be like shooting stars, bright and attention-grabbing, but quickly fading. Others might be like steady planets, persistent but ultimately just part of the cosmic landscape. The key is to maintain your position as the observer, the one who sits in the observatory and watches the celestial dance. As you practice this, you'll begin to notice something remarkable. Thoughts arise and pass away naturally when you don't interfere with them. The intrusive thought about harming someone isn't any more significant than the thought about what to have for lunch. They're both just mental events passing through the vast space of your awareness. This practice helps you develop what Buddhist teachers call equanimity, a balanced state of mind that can witness both pleasant and unpleasant experiences without being thrown off center. You're not trying to change your thoughts, you're changing your relationship to them. Lesson 4. The practice of loving kindness toward yourself. One of the most cruel aspects of intrusive thoughts is how they can make us judge ourselves harshly. What kind of person would think such things? We ask ourselves. I must be sick, evil, or dangerous. This self-judgment creates a secondary layer of suffering that often becomes more painful than the original intrusive thought. Buddhist psychology recognizes this pattern and offers a powerful antidote: loving kindness meditation, or metta practice. This isn't just about being nice to yourself. It's about developing a fundamentally different relationship with your own mind, one based on compassion rather than judgment. The Buddha taught that hatred cannot be conquered by hatred, but only by love. This applies directly to our relationship with our own difficult thoughts. When we approach intrusive thoughts with hostility and self-criticism, we're essentially fighting fire with fire. But when we approach them with understanding and compassion, we create space for healing. Think about how you would treat a friend who came to you distressed about having disturbing thoughts. Would you berate them, tell them they're terrible, or make them feel ashamed? Of course not. You'd probably offer comfort, reassurance, and understanding. The practice of loving kindness asks us to extend that same compassion to ourselves. This doesn't mean approving of or encouraging intrusive thoughts. It means recognizing that having these thoughts is part of the human experience, and that your distress about them actually demonstrates your good character. Someone who truly wanted to harm others wouldn't be upset by thoughts of harm, they'd be planning it. Here's a specific loving kindness practice for intrusive thoughts: the compassionate friend meditation. When an intrusive thought arises and you notice yourself beginning to self-judge, pause and imagine that your best friend is experiencing exactly what you're experiencing right now. What would you say to them? How would you comfort them? What wisdom would you offer? Now speak those same words to yourself. If you would say to a friend, "These thoughts don't define you, and having them doesn't make you a bad person," then say exactly that to yourself. You can also use traditional loving kindness phrases, modified for this specific struggle. May I be free from the suffering of intrusive thoughts. May I treat myself with the same kindness I'd show a good friend. May I remember that thoughts are not facts. May I find peace amidst the storm of my mind. The neuroscience behind this practice is fascinating. Studies show that self-compassion activates the same neural pathways as receiving compassion from others. When you practice loving kindness toward yourself, you're literally changing your brain chemistry, reducing stress hormones and increasing feel-good neurotransmitters. But perhaps more importantly, loving kindness practice helps break the cycle of secondary suffering. When you can have an intrusive thought without immediately attacking yourself for having it, you cut the fuel line that feeds the fire of mental distress. Lesson 5. The impermanence of all mental states. One of the most liberating insights in Buddhist philosophy is the understanding of impermanence, the truth that all phenomena, including thoughts and mental states, are constantly changing. This teaching, known as anicca in Pali, offers profound comfort to those struggling with intrusive thoughts. When you're in the midst of a particularly distressing intrusive thought, it can feel like it will last forever. The thought seems solid, permanent, and overwhelmingly real. But this is an illusion created by our focused attention and emotional reactivity. In reality, no thought has ever lasted forever, and no mental state is permanent. Consider the last time you had a severe headache. In that moment, it felt like the pain would never end. But where is that headache now? It arose, persisted for a while, and then faded away. The same is true for intrusive thoughts. They arise, persist for a while, and then fade away, regardless of how intense or disturbing they may seem. The Buddha used the metaphor of a river to illustrate this truth. From a distance, a river appears to be a solid, unchanging thing. But when you look closely, you realize that the river is nothing but flowing water, constantly moving, constantly changing. No drop of water stays in the same place for even a moment. Your mind is like this river. What we call thoughts are actually dynamic processes, electrical and chemical activities that are constantly in flux. An intrusive thought isn't a thing that exists in your mind. It's a temporary pattern of neural activity that arises and passes away. This understanding can be incredibly liberating. Instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this thought?" we can ask, "How do I wait for this thought to pass?" The first question assumes the thought is permanent and needs to be actively eliminated. The second question recognizes the thought's temporary nature and asks only for patience and skillful waiting. Here's a powerful practice for working with impermanence. The countdown technique. When an intrusive thought arises, instead of trying to fight it or analyze it, simply count backwards from 100 to 1. This isn't about distraction. It's about giving time for the natural process of mental change to occur. As you count, notice how the thought changes, morphs, or fades. By the time you reach 1, the mental landscape will be different than when you started. The thought might still be present, but it will have transformed in some way. This demonstrates the fluid, impermanent nature of all mental experiences. You can also practice the weather report technique. When an intrusive thought arises, describe it as if you're giving a weather report. Currently experiencing heavy clouds of disturbing thoughts with occasional storms of anxiety. Visibility is limited, but conditions are expected to change within the next few minutes. This practice helps you remember that mental weather, like physical weather, is always changing. No storm lasts forever, and no mental state is permanent. Even the most intense intrusive thought will eventually give way to something else. The teaching of impermanence doesn't minimize the difficulty of intrusive thoughts, but it does offer hope. Whatever you're experiencing right now, no matter how intense, disturbing, or overwhelming, is temporary. This too shall pass. The path to mental freedom. Final reflection. As we reach the end of this journey through the 5 lessons, I invite you to pause and truly breathe. Feel the weight of your thoughts, your struggles, your questions, and let them rest for a moment in the quiet presence of awareness. Let this not be the end, but the beginning of a deeper relationship with your mind. Because the goal was never to erase thoughts. The goal was never to conquer the mind by force or to live in some sterile mental silence. That is a myth, a false promise. The real freedom, the one that endures, that softens your suffering, is not freedom from thoughts, but freedom within the presence of thoughts. Let that sink in. Peace is not what happens when everything stops bothering you. Peace is what arises when nothing has the power to pull you away from your center. You now carry with you a living toolkit, a set of practices rooted in wisdom and compassion that can change your life from the inside out, not overnight, but gradually, gently, authentically. These are not tricks. They are truths. That your thoughts are just temporary weather patterns in the sky of your mind. They are not reflections of your worth, your identity, or your destiny. That the more you try to control your thoughts, the tighter their grip becomes. That there is a deeper part of you, the witness, the observer, that cannot be shaken by what it sees. That offering yourself kindness during your darkest moments is not weakness. It is the beginning of inner strength. That no mental storm lasts forever. Everything that rises will pass. That the simple act of conscious breathing can create space between you and your suffering. That when you stop resisting the mind begins to settle on its own. That practice, small, consistent, honest practice, is the true path to freedom. Each of these is a door, and you've been given the keys. You don't need to walk through all of them today. Choose one, open it, step through, then choose another tomorrow. The transformation is not in knowing, but in doing. The Buddha's final words were simple but profound. Work out your salvation with diligence. No one else can do it for you. But you're not walking this path alone. Across centuries and cultures, countless others have stood exactly where you stand, facing the chaos of the mind, the noise, the fear, the doubt. And they've chosen the way of inner clarity, the way of presence, the way of compassion. Your intrusive thoughts, yes, even the painful ones, are not enemies. They are messengers. They reveal where you're stuck and where you are called to grow. They illuminate the exact places where your awareness can expand, where your heart can soften, where your courage can awaken. And when you stop fighting them, when you simply let them come and go like waves in the ocean, something incredible happens. They lose their power, and you find yours. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about learning to stay, to breathe, to witness, to care, even when the mind is loud, even when the thoughts are dark. Especially then, be patient with yourself. Patterns built over years don't dissolve overnight. But with steady, compassionate effort, your inner landscape can begin to shift. Not because you forced it, but because you listened and you practiced and you showed up for yourself, even on the hard days. Remember, the peace you seek is not somewhere else. It's not after all your problems are solved. It's not hidden beneath a mountain of self-help advice. It is here now, in the simple, quiet capacity to stay grounded in the face of any thought, to not run, to not resist, to simply witness with compassion and courage. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom, that suffering is real, but so is liberation. That no thought, no feeling, no fear can define who you truly are, because who you are is the space in which all thoughts arise and fall. You are not the wave, you are the ocean. So let this be your vow, to practice even when it's hard, to return even when you stray, to meet yourself again and again in the gentle mirror of awareness. Take these teachings into your daily life. Practice not just when you're suffering, but when you're at peace, so that your peace becomes resilient, not fragile. Build mental strength during calm moments, so you're steady during the storms. Because every thought is an opportunity. Every moment of struggle is a classroom. Every breath is a chance to begin again. Your intrusive thoughts are not here to destroy you. They are here to awaken you. You are not broken, you are becoming. And every step you take on this path brings you closer to the truth, that the freedom you've been seeking was never far away. It has always been within you. So step forward, gently. Begin again. The path to mental freedom is not easy, but it is always open, and it begins now.